Let's read together. If anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain with the sword must he be slain. Here is a call for the endurance and faith of the saints. Do you know what it means to be captive, Malcolm?
No.
To go to jail or to prison, or basically you can't move the way you want. You can't live the way you want. And you know what slain means, right? Slain with the sword. What does that mean? The dragon slayer is a. Do you know?
Yeah.
What is a dragon slayer? Someone who. What is another word for slay? Do you know? To cut with a sword? Okay, I'll ask you again later. Oh, what did you guys think of the Bible study yesterday? Easy to follow. Boring. Other thoughts? Hmm? It was okay. Okay in terms of what? Like, oh, okay. What about you, Joshua?
I thought it was pretty easy to
Isaiah?
It was okay.
So what is the point of the passage then? What does the author want us to get from this vision?
Like 42 months I believe, and 5 years like created the dragon like travels outside the courthouse in God's land, and then yeah, in that instance like he like gathered his followers.
Okay, so what does the author want us to do with that? Anybody? It's true that it could be informational. I mean, it's a vision, so it's all symbolic, but what does the author want us to get from this? How are we supposed to be shaped? Maybe I asked a too emotional question. How are we to be shaped by this passage?
Yeah, to have more trust in God and suffering.
That's good. Anything else? Okay, then we'll go into in more detail. Let's read it first, and I'll start. Malachi, you're going to read, right? Okay. Then the dragon became furious with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus.
And he stood on the sand of the sea.
And I saw a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, with about 10 diadems on its horns and blasphemous names on each of its heads.
When the beast I saw was in the great sea like a bear, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth.
Until the dragon gave its power and its throne and its great authority.
One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but his mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast.
And they worshipped the dragon, for he had given it authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is
authority was given it over every tribe and people and language and nation, and all who dwell on earth will worship it. Everyone whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who is slain.
If anyone had an ear, let him hear. If anyone is be taken captured to capture he goes. If anyone is to be slain with the sword, with her sword must be slain. He is called for
Endurance
endurance and faith and the
of
uh,
faith of
faith of
saints.
saints.
Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon.
It exercises all the authority of the first beast and presence and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound was he.
In terrifying great silence, even making fire from the mouth of heaven, slew earth in front of people, and by the signs that it is allowed to work in your presence of the beast. If these seeds go to the holy earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived.
And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak, and might cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain.
Also, it caused all both small and great, both rich and
Poor.
poor, both free and slain, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one could buy the sell unless the mark had name of the beast of the number in his name. That called
You could stop there. Good.
This calls for wisdom, for the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man on his name, and his number is 666.
Okay. How many beasts are mentioned in our passage?
3.
Can you describe them briefly?
One is a dragon, that's a Satan. The second one is the one that came out of the sea, and the third one came out of the earth.
Okay. Some people take our passage, chapter 13, to be separate, but to me is a continuation of the vision that you see in blue. It ended with the dragon determining to make war. So how does a dragon make war? Not directly, but indirectly with these 2 beasts that he summons. So it's about half and half. Our passage is split into 2 parts. So there's a description of this beast that rises from the sea. You can see in the picture, there's a lion and a bear and a leopard and a dragon. This picture is derived from a vision from Daniel 7, but Revelation is combining all of these 4 beasts and making them into one. So that's where the image is coming from. Something we didn't talk about much was the blasphemous names. What do you think are blasphemous names?
Like, isn't blasphemy like purity, like anger?
Yeah, let's start with the definition. What is blasphemy, Joshua?
I guess like in religious context, I speak inappropriately, like contrary to like what is true.
I think that's good. Contrary to what is true. What was the first thing you said?
So
inappropriate. Yeah. Disrespectful. Usually it's always in a religious context. But yes, that's the second part, what you said was closer to what we have in Revelation. So yeah, like in the Gospels, people accuse Jesus of speaking blasphemy. Blasphemy could be insulting in a disrespectful, irreverent way, but here it's closer to not being true. So what do you think these names might be? Got 7 heads, so 7 possible names here. What do you think this beast is called, or calling itself? Things that are not true, things that are disrespectful to God. And I put this coin as a hint of what I think one of the names might be.
Anyone by claiming to be a god.
Yeah. Anything else? So a name could be God. Do you guys remember? This is Dewey or Divi Filius, meaning Son of God. So it's not true and disrespectful to Jesus to claim a title that is his own. So Son of God or God. What else? Savior, Lord. When we say Jesus is Savior, those are terms that were also used of the Caesars at the time. Caesar was called Savior of the world because he brought peace. If you guys remember your history, Caesar Augustus came to power by winning a war, and it was partly a sea battle. So bringing peace on sea and land, that is part of the propaganda. So I bring peace. I'm powerful. No one can defeat me. I think blasphemous names would be any title that should be given to God. That's what I think. Could be more. The next sentence, and to it the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. Similar to God giving authority to Jesus, but we have here the dragon giving authority. We've had mention of Satan's throne already in Revelation 2:13. Daniel, can you read the verse?
I know where you go, and where Satan's throne is, then you know that you hold fast my name, and do not deny my faith, even in the days that I confess my faithfulness, who have killed along me or sanctified.
So where is Satan's throne? How do we describe this power? What it's used for? How it's displayed?
Well, it says that in like Revelation 13, it's like talking about. I mean, like he's saying that even though he calls it Satan's throne, they're faithful, and so like they're facing persecutions. I'm thinking that like Satan's throne is where he is in control, where he will persecute Christians.
Mm-hmm. Anything to add, Joshua? Yeah, it's not a fixed location, but just like we talk about the kingdom of God, maybe you guys remember, the kingdom of God is not a specific place, it's not a specific nation. It's wherever the will of God is done on earth as it is in heaven. So same with Satan's throne. How is it that Pergamum could be called Satan's throne? Because the people are engaging in worship that is contrary to God's will. It aligns with Satan's will. And that is most clearly seen in their persecution of God's people. So Satan especially hates God and anyone aligned with God. We'll see that soon. So persecution is where we would, persecution of God's people, that's where we'd say symbolically Satan's throne is. And how does he display this power? By killing people, domination, and for the purpose, we'll get to that. This is key. Maybe you guys noticed when we read the entire passage, this aspect of the beast is most important. It's repeated at least 3 times. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed. Malachi, do you know what a mortal wound is? It means a wound, like if you get stabbed in the shoulder, are you gonna die? No. If you get stabbed in the heart, will you die? Probably. So a mortal wound in the head, what do you think about that? Pretty bad, right? You don't want to get slain, that part of the body. So he died, but then he was healed. It says he seemed to have a mortal wound. So some people say, well, maybe it just looked like it was a really bad cut. But the same expression is used for the lamb in the throne room vision regarding Jesus the lamb, that he seemed to be slain. It looked like the lamb was slain. So this beast in this vision was slain. Its head was, I don't know, cut off. Maybe not cut off, but it looked like he died, and he did die, but he was healed. And I think that's kind of reasonable for people to be amazed by that. They marveled and they followed the beast. Let's skip this question. Malachi, can you read what the people say in quotations?
Who is like the beast and who can fight against it?
Yeah, so it's similar to what we see elsewhere of worship of God. There is none like you, O Lord. Who is like you, Lord? And there is an implied reason of why they worship the beast. Who can fight against it? What are they marveling at, Joshua?
Maybe like his power to like heal his mortal wound.
He can heal his mortal wound. Yeah, it's a little ambiguous of how the wound was healed. Was it healed by the dragon? Was it healed by God? Was it something else? Who can fight against it? Praising its power to fight in battle. And we have on the right side the worship of the Lamb. You're worthy, etc. Because, etc. How do the reasons for the worship of the beast and the lamb differ? Yeah. This beast seems invincible without weaknesses. In that point of view, mortality is a weakness, but this beast proved itself to be able to even conquer death. But the Lamb is praised because it was slain. It goes against logic or the common sense of the world. Daniel, you're quiet. Why was the Lamb slain?
To take away the take away like the punishment we deserve for our sin.
Where are you getting that from Revelation 5?
After the curse.
So what I heard was, say that again? Why was the Lamb slain?
It's like save us from our sins, which and then take away the punishment we deserve.
Save sounds right. You were purchased for God, but the other stuff is not in the passage. You'd have to look elsewhere for that. But it's to save people. That's different from what the beast is doing. It's to exalt himself. So self-sacrifice. His power is shown in his weakness and is on behalf of others. You could see that also in Psalm 35. There's also a similar one in Psalm 88. Who is like you? You rescue the poor. So it's on behalf of others, but this beast acts on behalf of itself and puts others down. Yeah, you guys can see obviously where I'm going. The word blasphemy appears 4 times in our passage. The beast has blasphemous names. We talked about that. It speaks blasphemous words against God and those who dwell in heaven. So we talked about blasphemy being irreverent, disrespectful, not true. So we answer that question. How do you think God's people are blasphemed? What kind of lies and inaccurate claims are made against God's people that this beast would say? Do you guys remember any of the human characters that are in heaven? I don't think Elijah is mentioned in Revelation. I should have been more specific. In Revelation, there have been some human characters in heaven. Where are they and what are they doing?
Oh, the 14,000 or 144 pounds seal.
Yeah, that's one correct answer. They are there because they went through the tribulation. The other human characters are those under the altar. They've been the martyrs. They're slain. So this is not a description of the beast is blaspheming living people, believers, God's people. No, it's about those who were martyred. So probably giving an accurate interpretation of their life and death, that these martyrs died foolishly. I show my great power because I can destroy my enemies. remember what the Assyrian officer said. I'm forgetting the king. We read it in Isaiah. I think the king's name starts with a Z. But anyways, they're being besieged. Jerusalem is besieged. And the Assyrian officer says, "Where is the God of this nation and that nation? Those gods couldn't save them. I was able to defeat them." And don't say that your God, the God of Israel, is going to save you, because that's what every other nation said about their gods, but they don't exist anymore. So, and in fact, your God told me to go and destroy you. Maybe you remember that passage. So, blaspheming God's people would be your faith, your God is nothing. The things that you stand for, they're not true. That's how I take this to be. Blaspheming those who died and now are with Christ in heaven, saying that that is not the case. They died in vain. And all of this is for his own glory. I think this picture is supposed to be a type of Nebuchadnezzar, exalting himself. Maybe you guys know from grammar, maybe it's too advanced to knock high, but these are all passive verbs. The beast was given and was allowed to do these things. And those who worship the beast, their names are not written. So, how does this affect our understanding of this passage if everything is a passive voice? The beast seems to be acting on his own will, and also the people who worship the beast, they're not coerced, at least not yet in the vision. They willingly follow the beast. But how does the use of the passive voice affect our understanding of this scene?
It's not beast, it's not strong, or like it's like just instrument of Satan.
Yeah, it could be the beast was given these things by the dragon, but that wouldn't work for the second one. It was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months, because that is from Daniel regarding what God allows Antiochus Epiphanes to do during the time of Daniel. So these are called divine passives. So even though the word God is not here, the beast was given by God this authority and allowed to make war on the saints. So how does that affect our understanding of this passage? Joshua.
The beast is not in control of God. Rather, God is in control of the beast.
Very simple, but really important. Because if you think about, wow, authority over the whole world, it even defeats, it doesn't just make war, it defeats the saints. This beast is so powerful. But then if you look at the passive voice, this is all allowed for by God. There is a greater power and control. And on top of that, it's ironic. This beast thinks that he is God. We already know the backstory for the dragon. The dragon was kicked out of heaven. So it's being petty and vengeful, doing what it can in the short time it has. So we already know this is actually overcompensating, trying to claim something that it absolutely doesn't have. But it's ironic. Everything that it's doing, it was given to do. It was allowed to do. That takes power away from this seemingly intimidating, invincible character. I can't remember if we talked about this. Daniel, how would you answer this question?
How do you check on like opposites?
Mm-hmm. It's intentional. Why? What kind of life is this?
Maybe like it's like the story of her lifetime, I guess.
There are different ways to take this book of life. When Moses says on the mountain, after the people were worshiping the golden calf, he says, "Blot me out of the book of life." He doesn't mean what Daniel means or what Revelation means. He's using it in a different way. Blot me out of the book of life means kill me, don't touch the others. But here, this is taken from Daniel. The book of life, it refers to those who will be raised and keep their resurrection life. So it's intentional that this is the book of life of the Lamb, because the Lamb himself was killed and raised to life. So those whose names are in this book will also live like the Lamb, die, slain, not just die, slain, and then come to life. And that is important for understanding the next part, because you can see that the word slain appears 3 times, actually 4 times in our whole passage, but this is in close proximity, so it's important for understanding the next part. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. We've seen that 7 times already, right? For each letter to the church. And then it's clear. Here is a call for the endurance and faith of the saints. So this is key for what we're to take from it. So that's why I chose this as the key verse. What does it mean, if anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes? What does that mean, plainly?
There will not be like any intervention from
No divine intervention from God. What does the if clause indicate? If anyone is to be slain, if anyone is to be taken captive.
It's like conditional, so if you put it, then you will.
Say that last part again?
If you don't meet the conditional, if you don't meet the condition, then you won't be slain or sent to captivity.
That's true. Again, this is passive. If anyone is to be taken captive. Another way to say this then is, if it is your lot, if it has been determined that you are to be taken captive. And sure, we've seen that the beast can do this. But even what the beast does is allowed for and given by God. So this is properly a divine passive. If it is God's will for you to be taken captive, it will surely happen. If it is God's will for you to be slain with a sword, it will happen. So yes, no divine intervention, but doesn't this fit with what we see in the first sentence here? Things have been written from the foundation of the world. Things have already been decreed. And if we know the kind of God that we're speaking of, then this isn't as terrifying as it seems, because even God himself condescended to become a human and go through this himself. So it's not that God is expecting us to do something that he himself did not do. So yes, the if clauses are not indicating that every Christian will have to go suffer this way. But if it is your lot, this will happen. And the word slain, that's key, indicating that even though it seems to be defeat, actually it is to join in the identity and life of Jesus, right? So that's why it's a call for the endurance and faith of the saints, not for just anybody. Those who identify with Jesus will be like him, and so they can take on this suffering willingly. So it's a thing about rebranding or reinterpreting your life. Your enemy thinks that by defeating you that they've won, but really you've won over them. That's the idea. We have this long thing here. Joshua, can you take it?
On all the warning news for the faithful, they lose their freedom while even their lives they face the rest of the beast. The paradox is striking. Those who do not worship the beast are written the lives book of life, yet there is a face of hostility of death and contempt of the beast. Being written in the book does not protect them from dying, but it does promise victory over death through resurrection. Not every faithful witness will be put to death, but all must be ready to endure suffering in the set marathon if it comes. On another level, the warning points to justice. The beast now threatens the faithful with captivity, but when Christ returns, the beast and the false prophet will themselves be taken captive. The beast followers will not kill with the sword, but in the end they will fall by the sword from the Christ's mouth. In the light of Revelation's ending, the warning calls for the perseverance, giving us to the beast does not lead to safety. In the final judgment, those who are all lost their freedom and life will suffer the same fate.
Did that make sense, what you read? How would you summarize what you just read?
It's basically like you have a choice. If you choose to follow God and endure the suffering and the persecution that the beast will give you, you'll like have victory over death. What if you don't? You'll like when the judgment time comes, then you'll suffer the same fate.
Yeah. If we take this on another level, it also points to those who behave this way, acting like the beast is an instrument, we said. So if he acts in this way, he will also be taken captive. But there is hope. There is justice at the end. So there are two ways. This is a double entendre, ambiguous, a little poetic, right? There's some repetition to parallel statements. So there's a lot to think about. I think it's a good verse to memorize. Moving on to the second beast, the beast rising out of the earth. It's a little different from the other one. How so? Or how is it similar? It seems to be a little less powerful than the first beast because it has just two horns And there's no mention of having extra heads or crowns, diadems, things like that. 2 horns like a lamb. But there is something that makes this deceptive. Its appearance isn't as frightening, but unlike the first beast, do you guys notice that it doesn't say that the people worship the first beast willingly? Now it said it makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast. So it looks not as intimidating, but it does have a power that isn't apparent at first. And we'll see that as we go further. So let's read this again. Isaiah, can you take it?
Performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to earth in front of the people and by the signs that it is allowed to work in the presence of the beast. It deceives those who dwell on earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and that lived. And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak and might cause those who will not worship the image of the beast to be slain.
Alright, so how does it show its power? It doesn't look intimidating, but it does coerce people to worship. How so?
By doing signs, like bringing fire from heaven, and making the image of the beast to speak and kill.
And kill. So deception and fear are its weapons. It deceives people. We talked about the fire coming down from heaven. That's the kind of thing Elijah did. We didn't talk much about this talking image. So there are many theories out there of what this might be, but the notion itself is not unique, that idols could talk or do stuff. There are plenty of ways that people would manipulate things so that it could look that way, using sorcery or getting people into a trance-like state, or deception. And so I have here Nebuchadnezzar, because I'm going to get to that. And then the other thing, not just deception, but causing fear. If you do not bow down to this image, you will die. You'll be killed. So that's obviously what we read from Daniel. Daniel's friends did not bow down to Nebuchadnezzar's image. There is another story in Daniel, but it's not in our Protestant Bible, but in the Greek Bible. So things that Jesus and his contemporaries would know. There's another story. Nebuchadnezzar said, is it Bel? Basically, Daniel said that your gods are not real. And Nebuchadnezzar said, if my gods are not real, then how is it that whenever I go to the house of Bel and put food and drinks to the god, the next day it's gone? That means that idols can eat. So we have here this image can breathe. It could speak. So we have a similar thing here where this idol looks dead, but it can actually eat and drink the offerings that you give it. So Daniel said, I'm going to prove to you that your idol is fake. If I'm wrong, you can put me to death, but if I'm right, you have to kill your priests. And so Nebuchadnezzar offers food and drinks to Bel, but Daniel secretly puts ashes on the floor. And then the next day, the food is gone. And Nebuchadnezzar says, Daniel, it's time to be killed because you are wrong. The food is gone. But he says, wait, look at the ashes on the floor. There are footprints. So that means that and then he looks where the footprints go, and there's a trap door. And so there are priests and their families, when everybody's done offering their food, they open the trap door and get all the offerings, and then they go back down and then eat in secret. And so they deceive people by saying that this is a real God because he's able to eat. But it was fake. And so the priests and their families are killed because that was the challenge. So it could bring to mind that kind of story that it's not, it could be sorcery, it could be something else, but people are usually the ones behind these things. The beast, the first one, recalls Nebuchadnezzar and plenty of the other emperors that call themselves things that they are not. I am God, I am the Son of God, I am this, I'm that. It's usually people represented by this first beast, and same with the second beast. Priests, religious leaders, anyone who benefits from supporting this system, they too are deceptive, and they pressure people in this way. Same thing here, it was allowed to do these things. So even though it did it willingly, it is all under God's control. Even the powerful things it could do, even signs from heaven. And let's focus on the last part. Joshua, can you read it?
Also, according to our most small and great of which and for was free and slave being like under our hand and by the forehead and Lord and fire still on the shield from like that is the name of the beast and the number of his name.
Right, and we've seen something similar, but not quite, in Revelation 7. Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God. Daniel, you've been quiet. How is it similar to or different from the sealing of the servants of God?
The Revelation, the one of the 40,000 is like for those who are like servants of God. Then the one over there, they have to be just no matter their status or
Status what?
no matter their status or power.
I can't hear you.
Like in the Revelation, it's all like the servants of God
Mm-hmm.
that get sealed. But in our passage, it's just like no matter the status or power, they get sealed.
It's that last thing I cannot hear.
Like no matter their status or
No matter their status. That's what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. But what are they marked for?
but they're like under God's rule,
Under God's what?
under God's like they're under God's authority.
Mm-hmm. In Revelation 7 it says, don't harm the earth until you put a seal. So protection is also a part of it. This is not for the protection, this 666 mark is not for the protection of people. It seems that way though. It seems in the short term that if I get this mark, then I can live another day. I can buy and sell what I need. But surely it's not for long-term protection. So the purpose is different, but it is similar in the sense of submission. They are servants of God. It's not really compulsion then, right? They're not forced to be sealed, but they are already submitting to God, and so they receive this seal. For the beast, it is coercion. So we see again, the second beast looks kind of mild, but it deceives. It coerces with fear of being killed and fear of, well, slowly dying, of being excluded from society if you're not able to buy or sell. So yeah, it's also fear, but in a different way. So we have sort of two different groups of people. Who do you submit to? Where is your identity? There was something else I wanted to add. Let's leave it there. The last part gets a lot of attention. The number is 666. I'll read it again. The ending of the first sentence says, unless he has the mark, that is the name of the beast or the number of its name. So that tells us that this is gematria, because it says the number of its name. And so that tells us how to understand the second sentence. The number of a man, his number is 666. So it is the number of a specific person. But of course, this is within the vision. Do you guys know the game MASH? Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, you're guys. Girls, at least my age, know MASH, and I know that there's a Korean version. But basically, it's pretty childish, but it seems to be universal because gematria is kind of based on it too. But basically, this is a side note, but MASH is a game that a lot of girls play where you have a crush, you don't know if he likes you back. So you're gonna figure it out by adding up the, and I forgot how to do it. But I think for each letter of his name, you add up where it is in the alphabet, and then you add it up, and then you do a bunch of marks, and then you find out if it's yes or no. Koreans also have a similar version where every line in your name means something. So gematria is kind of similar, where each letter in the alphabet has a numerical value. Daniel, can you take the box?
Revelation is, she says gematria, the method of adding up the numerical values of letters in the name is not given you information that helps readers to know traits or figure with a specific name. The process has two steps. One, notice the person's trait from the text. Think of someone who matches those traits and see if it makes it things to remember. Make sure writers also use gematria in this way, giving readers enough clues to solve the puzzle. In Revelation, the beast is described as rolling in the city on seven hills, speaking faithful, linked with fire, and said to die yet lived again. The sins point to Nero, man his name is written in Hebrew letters, Nero Caesar, Contact 666.
Okay. I'll add a little bit to that. City on seven hills is another way to speak of Rome. Persecuting the faithful and fire, linked with fire. There was a great fire in Rome, and Nero supposedly lit it himself. But anyways, everyone is looking for somebody to blame, and Nero blames the Christians. So yeah, historians speak of, well, if you're going to blame somebody, what do you think people are going to do? They're going to look at Christians and they're not going to treat them very nice. So very terrible time during Nero's reign. And then the last part, died yet lived again. So we noted 3 times that this beast is said to have a mortal wound that healed. It's similar to Jesus, but not quite, because Jesus he's called the slain lamb, but this one it boasts in its healing. But anyways, Nero, according to legend, committed suicide with a sword, but there were people who said that actually he fled, and one day he's going to come back and take over with a great army. So there is that similarity there, that he had a mortal wound but claimed to still be alive. So there are many interpreters of Revelation who think that 666 refers to Nero Caesar, because that is the way that you do gematria. It has to be a specific person. And we see here the name of the beast, as I mentioned in the beginning, or the number of its name, the number of a man. But there are people who are not satisfied with that interpretation, and so it's not 666, one number, but rather, did I say that right? Yeah, one number, but rather people take it as 6, and 6 3 times, so it's 3 numbers. And 6 can be, half of 12. We already saw something about that, and also humans were created on the 6th day of creation, so it's the number of a human. There are different ways of taking it, but is it a huge deal? Within the vision, not really. It's all about describing the power of this beast, but it is under God's control. So for some people, this causes great fear, but I don't think that's how we're to be shaped by this passage. It's not to create fear, but rather be alert, but most importantly, to have your faith in God, that God is really the one in control. So is the mark of the beast something that's an actual thing? Some people thought the vaccine was the mark of the beast. Some people thought about that for credit cards. Any new thing, any new currency, people tend to associate it with this, but Revelation doesn't tell us that. It doesn't give us exact ways to know. So I would recommend just taking this as just a big picture view of how the world usually works. That people use deception and fear of exclusion, fear of not being able to participate in the economy, not able to support yourself. People use that kind of fear to test our faithfulness to God. So however that looks, there's just a way that our faith is being tested. So here are some takeaway points. Let's each take one going around. I'll start first. The 2 beasts act on behalf of the dragon, who wages war against God's people, but this war is not military war, but it calls for daily acts of faithfulness amid external pressures. Malachi, can you take the next one? Number 2.
Huh?
Can you take number 2? Read it.
Oh, the time between Jesus'
Ascension.
ascension and return is marked by the people
Exalting
themselves or commit authority instead of worship the one true God.
Blasphemy.
Blasphemy
Occurs.
when God is
Denied.
denied the
Honor.
honor and worship he
Deserves.
deserves.
People are naturally drawn to power and dominion, domination, all around follows liberation, self-sacrifice, and shared authority with his followers.
The beast inspires fear, yet its authority is given by God. Commanding us not to fear or something.
Many verses some thinkers may explain like Jesus fulfilled certain resurrection life, and justice ensures the justice of the
Finally, names are written in the book of life by God's grace. I forgot to touch on that. You can't earn your way into the book of life. It's just your name is there. But there is a distinction. Our true distinction is shown by following this lame one, bearing his mark rather than the beast.